Welcome back, everybody. We missed you last month. The reason we missed last month was because it was the month of our professional learning for our eighth and ninth grade STEM teachers for another grant that we do at Edion called STEM ACES. That grant is really cool. And just a quick plug, we are now recruiting for our study to see if our STEM education material created by the lovely Dar, with help from Laura and the team, of course, but Dar imagined it, has birthed it from her mind, um, with suggestions. Uh, we're doing a study to see does it really help increase learning, and it's backed by all kinds of science. It's universal design of learning type stuff. It's hands-on STEM curriculum that is intended for eighth grade classrooms, also intended for rural classrooms. So if you know anyone who teaches eighth grade, or you know parents who have thought about their eighth grade student, worried not getting enough hands-on stuff, let me know. You guys all know how to reach me, and I'd be happy to give you more information.
Yep,
Um,
there's our eighth grade science
Today
teacher.
we have Naz here to share about hydrogen alpha imaging, was it? Is my internet being terrible? It might be. Oh, I'm back. My internet looked like it stopped for a moment. Oh, Heather's an eighth grade science teacher. That's super exciting, Heather. But yeah, we'll catch up about that after when we're not. Or if you guys just unmuted, Heather, would you like to get in touch after this meeting?
That sounds good. Yeah, I did go to your session. I think it was like early July or late June. So I did go to that session, which I really enjoyed.
Cool.
But yeah, I teach eighth grade earth science and I also do sixth grade physical science, but we
Oh
teach
my
a
God,
lot
that's
of astronomy.
perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, I'm gonna write myself a note so I don't forget because I have ADHD. Um,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's my note. So a lot of cool stuff planned for today. We have Naz of Nastronomy presenting on hydrogen alpha imaging, I think it was called. Here is a link to their website. Naz, you pretty much have most of the meeting. I think we'll leave maybe like 10, 15 minutes at the end to chat for questions, that kind of thing, whatever you feel comfortable doing. I'm going to give you all the permissions.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And Naz, take it away. Let me know whatever I can do to support you, but I'm going to sit back and learn.
Alrighty. So let me get my presentation ready.
How is the world of solar imaging these days, just in general?
It's, it's pretty good. Sun is still there.
Oh, that's good. That's good to
Yeah.
hear.
All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll be talking about hydrogen alpha solar imaging. It's a very specific type of astrophotography. I know we have a couple of, expert astrophotographers like in the Eclipse Megamovie group. Is there anyone here who has ever done H alpha imaging, whether it's night or day? All right, Robert, I see Robert's hand going up. Cool. Yeah, so this is just for the sun, and I've been going around giving this talk to astronomy clubs around Massachusetts. So it's been really fun, and this is my first time actually doing it on Zoom. I usually do it on in person. So let's see how this goes. So thanks to Hannah for sharing the link to my website, which is nastronomy.com. I also run a YouTube channel where I show people things about astronomy and astrophotography. I have like a whole video on how to capture and process images like this of the sun. It does require specialized hardware, and I'll go over that in this video or in this presentation. And the QR code just points to my link tree, which is just linktree.ee/nastronomy, and has all these other information. So today's agenda, I'll talk a little bit more about myself, just so you know who I am, what I do. Talk a little bit about H alpha, the hardware I use to take these images, the software I use to capture and process these images, and we'll look at some examples that come out of them. So who am I? So I'm Naz. My first full name is Nazmus. Fun fact is that it's Arabic for star, which I didn't learn until I was about 20 years old. So my parents had no idea. A random person I met, they're like, "Oh, do you know your name means star?" This was years after I got my first telescope, so it's kind of meant to be. I got my first telescope in 2006 and my first real telescope in 2012. This is my first real telescope, my C6, my Nexstar 6SE on top of our New York City apartment building. Great view, but it was always windy. And 2012 was also the first time I took my first image of the sun. And this is of the Venus transit from that rooftop. You can see Venus on the top right corner. I had two good shots because it's always cloudy, as you know. But this was a really nice shot, and I'm ready for the next one in 2117. Got my Lunt 40, which is my hydrogen alpha telescope, in early 2023 in preparation for the upcoming solar eclipses. The first one was the annular eclipse on October 14th, 2023, and then the April 8th, 2024. I was planning on taking this with me to Texas. We were going to drive to Texas with an 11-month-old, and as we know, the forecast didn't agree with us. So I did take this with us. We changed plans. We went to upstate New York. We paid an enormous amount of money for an Airbnb last minute. I set up the night before. The forecast looked good. I woke up the next morning, and of course, it's cloudy. So I had to pack up and drive east. I had my in-laws with us, and I had to decide whether to take my H alpha scope or my in-laws. And I did not get any H alpha images that day. No regrets because we had an 11-month-old, so having the grandparents in the car was definitely the better call. But the image you see here is from August 6, 2023, 2 years ago. And the little dots here you see is the International Space Station transiting the sun. And I'll take any opportunity I can to take images of the International Space Station when it's transiting the sun or the moon because we don't have many years left with it. But this was a really cool shot. So what is hydrogen alpha and why is it so cool? So hydrogen alpha is a very specific wavelength of light, specifically 656 nanometers. It ranges between air and in a vacuum. And it is in the visible part of the spectrum, so it appears deep red. So it is something that we can visually observe. And I do take my lunt out for solar astronomy sessions, like outreach sessions, and people will look through my telescope and see a very red sun, but they can also see prominences that we can't otherwise see with our white light filter and other solar telescope setups. And H alpha is everywhere in the universe. This is a picture of the Elephant's Trunk Nebula. Catalog number is IC 1396. And all the red that you see here is all hydrogen alpha. And this was taken with a small refractor and a DSLR, modified DSLR, so I can see the H alpha range. And it looks really cool. This is all 8 hydrogen alpha. And when we take nighttime hydrogen alpha images, we'll take these filters that filter out everything else but the H alpha. Some of the best filters we can get have a bandpass of about 3 nanometers. So it'll range from like 655 to 657 nanometers. And even then, it's unsafe for solar viewing. Even though 3 nanometers is super tiny, it's still too big for solar. And we'll see exactly why in a couple of slides. The sun and hydrogen alpha, so the sun emits a lot of white light. We see it in the photosphere. It eats up all of the H alpha light. Nothing we can do about that. But we can see the chromosphere, and that's what we're really after. And we can see it during solar eclipses. So this image is from the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse, the amazing solar prominences that we were able to see around the moon. And with a proper H alpha filter, we can see prominences and filaments and sunspots and solar spicules and so many more details on the solar surface. And I absolutely love looking at the sun whenever I can with this. There are several types of hydrogen alpha telescopes that you can get. I use a Lunt. I have a Lunt 40, it's one of the smaller H alpha telescopes. When I bought it, it was about $750. It's around 900 now, inflation, tariffs, etc. There's also the Coronado, made by Meade. Unfortunately, Meade and Orion went out of business last year, so Coronados are never made. But this next pic, I found a Coronado at Costco. This is a joke I put for the astronomy clubs that I give presentations to because this is not a telescope, but it's also named Coronado, and it's cheap. The Heliostar, Skywatcher Heliostar, just came out. I believe they launched it in May. I did take a look through this. It looks pretty cool, but it's around $3,500. And the Solar Scout is made by a company called Daystar. Daystar also makes hydrogen alpha eyepieces, which is actually pretty cool. So you can turn any f4 to f8 refractor into a hydrogen alpha telescope because you just place the eyepiece, H alpha eyepiece, into where the eyepiece would go, and now you can see the sun in H alpha. It has a lot of other quirks that made me decide not to get this and get a Lunt instead. So I won't go into that into detail here, but if anyone has wants to know about it, you can talk to me later. Before I move forward, there's also something called a spectroheliograph that you can use. It's another device you can install onto a refractor, and you can get pretty much any wavelengths from the sun. So not just H alpha, you can also get like calcium K, hydrogen beta, whatever else the sun emits. The sun emits everything. So those are pretty cool. That's one I want to get next to add to my arsenal. Looking at the parts of the H alpha telescope, just an anatomy of the telescope. So the most important part of the H alpha telescope is something called the etalon. Etalon isn't particular to astronomy. It's used in laser interferometry, and it's an optical interference filter that lets us tune our wavelength so that we get exactly what we want to see and nothing more. And you can tune the etalon in several different ways. Pressure and tilt tunes are two of the more common ones. The one I have has a tilt tune, so I have this cog wheel that I turn, and it tilts the front mechanism or tilts it back. And the idea is to make the light hit my telescope in a certain way that I'm getting the 656 point whatever nanometers exactly in a way that I can see all the surface features. Because if you're off by a little bit, you can't see, you'll be missing stuff. A third way to tune this is also temperature tuning. I believe the Daystar Quark eyepieces use temperature tuning. Yeah, this is the wavelengths that we're after. Give me 1 second. I need to mute my Discord. Okay. So yeah, just a diagram of what a etalon looks like. The full name is the Fabry Perot etalon. It has two nearly parallel mirrors, transparent mirrors that are placed there. You get all of the light, it bounces the light around, reduces the energy, and it only lets through a certain wavelength of light. But often it'll include all these other wavelengths. But we really want this. And these H alpha telescopes have another thing in the back called a blocking filter. So it'll take all of these lights, pass through that filter, and now we only have the wavelength that we want. Credit for this goes to David Nicely from Cloudy Nights. This was a really, really great example of what happens with the etalon and the blocking filter. And the wavelengths we measure in a hydrogen alpha telescope is measured in angstroms, and 1 angstrom is 0.1 nanometers. And the range that I image in is between zero point 0.5 and zero point 0.7 angstroms. So that's 0.07 nanometers versus the 3 nanometers that we get from nighttime hydrogen alpha filters. That's why we can't use a nighttime hydrogen alpha filter to image the sun because you will burn your filter, your telescope, your eyes, your camera. You can also stack these etalons, and what happens when you stack them and you get a narrower wavelength pass through to your camera or your eyepiece, you get much more contrast between the bright parts and the dark parts. They just look a little bit more structure. You can see a lot more structure. They just come out more. When you start getting to like the zero point 0.3 nanometers, sorry, zero point 0.3 angstrom range, it becomes dim for the eye, but the camera still can pick it up because you can start doing longer and longer exposures. I only use a single stack and I'm able to get some really nice results. Etalons are the most expensive part of the H alpha telescopes, and as someone who spends way too much money on telescopes, I try to stop myself from buying when I don't need something. Talking more about the etalon, this is a really nice example by Bob Yozel, also from Cloudy Nights. He had 4 panels to show exactly what an etalon would do in the H alpha telescope. So the first panel here, imagine looking at the sun with no filter. We see this. On the bottom, we use a typical white light filter. It filters out most of the light. We can still see the photosphere. It's just dimmed. On the third panel here is with a nighttime hydrogen alpha filter and a white light filter. People do some cool science and cool astrophotography with this combination. I've never done this, but I do want to one day. And the fourth panel is when you have an actual H alpha etalon. This flame on this candle was always here the entire time. We just couldn't see it. We just needed something to help us filter everything else out except for the H alpha. So I thought this was a really nice demonstration of what an H alpha telescope actually does. I talked about the blocking filter. It's mostly for safety, and it removes unwanted wavelengths. And an energy rejection filter is if you're using like an eyepiece hydrogen alpha, you need to be able to decrease some of the light coming through because the sun is still very hot. The mount is probably the second most important part of your H-alpha setup. I use an alt-az mount most of the time called the Solar Quest. I used it for the Solar Eclipse as well. It has a little camera in front. It's a single button operation. I turn it on, I click a button, it'll find the sun, it'll center the sun, and it'll track the sun for hours, like magic. The only thing is that it has field rotation. I like doing time lapses, so I'll take images of the sun for hours and hours. And the as the Earth rotates, the orientation of the sun also rotates in the sky. So doing time lapses become difficult because it adds another step that I need to do. And to counteract that, you can use an equatorial mount where you don't get any field rotation. It's just a little bit harder to set up. But I do both setups. Most of the time, I'll just use an alt-az mount just for easy, quick imaging. Cameras, you can use any cameras. So this was taken with the cell phone, my old Android phone. You can see, sunspots. You can see some other features here, and then the prominence here. The red glow is because it's really hard to get the phone camera flush against the eyepiece, and the sun is really bright, so this is just leaked light from the sun. But it's still pretty cool. And this is actually a really good example of what we can see visually, like if we were looking at the sun through this telescope. Like you'll see something like this. You'll be able to see sunspots. Prominences are really clear visually, and you could probably even see better contrast on the surface. You can also use a DSLR or an OSCR color camera and get something a little bit better, more contrast. You can see some more sunspots, some more of the invisible prominences start to appear. The only problem with color cameras is that you only end up using a quarter of the pixels because most cameras, bare matrices, will have one red pixel, two green, and one blue pixel. And you only end up using a quarter of the resolution because only the red pixels will get used because H alpha is in the deep red part of the spectrum. The best thing to use is a monochrome camera. So when you use a monochrome camera, you use 100% of the pixels and you get all of these details. Like the contrast just starts to appear, and it's monochrome, you can color it later. That's basically what I do. And one thing I ran into when I started imaging is something called Newton's rings. So Newton's rings is actually an interference pattern when the light hits the flat surface of the sensor, bounces back, and interferes with itself. And you get these ripples on the sun. The first time I took this and I saw this, I didn't know what Newton's rings were. And I was like, wow, something big must have hit the sun. Like the sun, there's ripples on the sun. And then I realized, no, it's just, interference from my imaging train. And it's really annoying, like once you have them over and over again, once you figure out what it actually is. So the idea is to just have a little bit of tilt in your sensor so that it's not completely flat. And that eliminates the light from interfering with itself. You can buy tilters, again, money. I don't know, I put air quotes in there, but money. Or, do like me and, I'll just shove my camera at a slight angle and then just tighten one of these knobs, and that works most of the time. It actually works every time, so save myself $100. The software I use to capture, there are several software you can use. I mainly use Fire Capture. I'll also use SharpCap, and there's also Lucky Imaging plugin in Nina. I believe a lot of people in this volunteer group are familiar with Lucky Imaging in Nina. That was part of the whole thing. But I mostly use Fire Capture because I've been using it for years, and it does a really nice job. So Lucky Imaging, I don't have to explain that. You take videos, you higher FPS, you get luckier with the crispier frames. With this kind of setup, you'll also want to take flat frames. And what flat frames will do is get rid of the dust motes that you see or kind of make them it's kind of like magic, right? You take a flat frame, then the dust just disappears. I use a translucent plastic bag. I've been using the same bag for the last 2.5 years. Works great. Costs, I think, 2 cents from the bag of 100. And this is just an example of like imaging. Like I'm taking like 52 frames per second. And this is a flat frame. So top here is before flat frame, you see this dust. You can see some darkening on the top left-hand side, some darkening on the right-hand side. Once you take a flat, it's just all flat. So now I know that if wherever my sun goes, I'm just going to get a flat, completely flat field sun, no dust, magic. This is just an example. So you can see the sun kind of moving around. So this is actually a video of the sun from whichever date. RAW frames work best. You can take SER format or raw AVIs work as well. When I take images, when I want to do time lapses, I'll do 1,000 to 2,000 frames per video, and I'll take 100, 200, 300 of them. But if I'm taking just one image, I'll go 5, 10, 20,000 frames. Some of the challenges I've had with this kind of setup is focusing and tuning. So this telescope has a helical focuser. Helical focusers are annoying to focus most of the time. And this is especially challenging because it's so bright outside. You can try and hide from the sun as much as you can, but you have to, get out of the sun to focus your telescope. There are ways to automatically do this. I don't have that set up. I'm trying to save money so I can buy a bigger H alpha telescope at some point. And I already talked about alt-as field rotation as being a challenge for time lapses. Can do time lapses. Stacking post-processing. There is an app called PIP, Planetary Imaging Preprocessor. It's defunct. The creator has abandoned it, but you can still find it online. It's a really great tool for centering the object, debayering it, cropping it, and it'll output a raw format that can be used with other systems. You normally use this if you use like a DSLR to take videos instead of like fire capture or something that automatically saves in raw. And then there's AutoStacker. Version 4 in beta came out about a year and a half ago. And it works really well in analyzing and stacking the frames. It'll analyze and stack just the best frames that you want. I normally stack between 5 and 20% of the frames. So if I take 1,000 frames, I'll normally do 20%, which will stack 200 of the best frames based on the analysis that it does. You can also use something called Astro Surface. It tries to do the best of PIP and AutoStacker and what's the other one? Registax all in one. It does really well in most of these areas, so I use this too sometimes. IMPPG is a tone curves adjuster. It works from center out, so these little dots here start from the center here, so you can make the center, the different layers here brighter and darker, and you can increase contrast. Normally, I do like a live demo in these, but I'll show you results from this later on. And then you can colorize the sun using GIMP or Photoshop if you use a monochrome camera. And the colorization I use is just with curves adjustment. So I'll take the red, green, blue, and I'll just adjust them a little bit until I get the color that I like. So I made this really red just to show as an example. Just to show the different steps of this. So here we have the video. So this is a video that I took of the sun. And then I will stack this in AutoStacker, and this is what the stacked product looks like. We can't really see any prominences yet, but they're there. And then with IMPPG, kind of like magic, like the prominences just start to appear. So we can see some prominences here, some here. The solar surface looks much better. And then with GIMP or Photoshop, I can colorize it, and now I can make it pop a little bit more. So that video that you saw 4 slides ago now has become this, and we have like cool prominences along with this detached prominence and these prominences and all the filaments and all the sunspots, all from that same image. Looking at some more of my images that I've taken over the years. This is the sun. I should have put dates on these. I didn't. I don't know when I took them. So this one, so when your Edelon isn't tuned, you start getting these smooth areas. Sometimes it's almost impossible to tune an Edelon because it so much depends on your atmospheric conditions. If you're shooting through clouds, depends on the temperature. Sometimes it just doesn't align, and you can't tilt your Edelon enough, or you can't tilt or tune the pressure enough to get something. So this is one of those days. I still want to take an image because it had some really nice prominences all around, but couldn't tune it. So I have this little smooth spot here. This is from the October 14, 2023 partial eclipse. It was an annular eclipse somewhere else. Partial eclipse for me here in Boston. Shot through clouds, so no prominences, but I was happy to get whatever I can get. Here's another cool one. You can see I also shot this through clouds. Like, you notice clouds at night and during the day. Whenever you do astronomy, clouds are there. But I took this one because noticed this visually that there was a crazy dancing prominence on top, and I wanted to capture that. So this was like a 30-second exposure of the sun. This was one of my first images with this, and I did put a picture of the Earth here just to show the sheer size of the sun and this prominence here just to show like yeah, we are nothing next to the sun. Here's another one, giant prominence here. Lots of good filaments. We saw this one already with the Newton's rings. This was also one of my very first images. There are prominences around, but at this point, I didn't know how to bring them out. So I should probably reprocess this at some point. But I keep this around to show that I've grown in the processing in my process of processing. And then we saw this already. This is from July 25th, 2025. So this was just a few weeks ago. So this looked cool. This prominence actually detached and it started raining down onto the sun. I wanted to take a time lapse of that, but clouds rolled in. Clouds are enemy number one of astronomers. So this is my setup. This is what my setup looks like. So I have my Solar Quest, I have my Launch 40, I have my camera, I have my laptop running fire capture. You can see shadows of me and my son. He was, I think, 10 months old at the time. And my high-tech flat panel, my plastic bag and a rubber band. That's pretty much all you need. Just anything that can diffuse the sunlight enough. And here's me and my son. He's here at a solar outreach event a couple of weeks ago. He's looking through the H alpha eyepiece, and he described it really well. A red ball. So he's still around, looking through the telescope. Here's another setup. This is from the October 2023 eclipse. My H alpha, I also do white light filter whenever I can. From all the shadow, you can see that it was cloudy. But clouds. But yeah, that's the end of my presentation. If anyone has any questions, all the images that I've shown you they're on my website. Uh, Processing video, I have like a half an hour long video on my YouTube channel on like how I went from step A all the way to step Z. And that's it. Thank you.
Cool. That is so cool, Naz. Okay, I wrote down a couple questions that I'm gonna be selfish and ask first.
And go for it.
Um, Thank you for mentioning flats. People who have been with Eclipse Megamovie since, the beginnings of the projects, we have been saying, gotta take flats, gotta take flats, please take flats. Please, please take flats. We really need you to take flats, please. So it was very heartening to hear you mention flats. Do you use darks in a similar way as well, or do you pretty much just stick to flats?
I stick just for lucky imaging. I don't do darks because the exposures aren't long enough for the thermal noise to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Cool.
only when I start to do like if I need to do more than like 1 second exposures, I'll start doing darks. But most of these are 5 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds.
I see. The second question that I wrote down, you mentioned how old your son was. How old is your son today?
Uh, 2 years, 4 months.
Cool. Um, I had another question that I didn't write down, and that ADHD is kicking in, so I don't know. But if anyone watching has any questions, now's a good time. Okay. Well, when it comes to, oh, Hito says that they use an LED flat panel for flats. What is that? How do you use an LED for a flat?
So you'd use that at night, right? You can't really use that with the H alpha telescope because you need the power of the sun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You need bright
Because
enough, yeah.
for deep sky, the shooting. So I use
Mm.
it's a kind of tracing pad. It's a
Yep,
big A4 size tracing pad, and you just put on my telescope and then just take flats.
yep, I do that too.
Cool. And so though it sounds like the point for a flat is to, you said diffract the light?
Diffuse.
Diffuse. Thank you. I am an English major. Um, it's wild too, the texture difference of the surface of the sun. Like we know that the sun is just this ball, or even just the surface part of it is this moving living plasma, and it's so hot that it's just constantly in motion and changing and shifting, and then a bunch of energy gets released in the form of a prominence, as we've seen. I think the prominences in some of your pictures are the coolest we've seen because they really do look like fiery balls of just wild energy.
Yeah,
That is really cool.
yeah. And if I have one more, I can show like one of the time lapses I've taken.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
we have plenty of time. Also while Naz is pulling this up, if anybody has any other pictures they wanted to share, Naz very kindly stepped in when we had another share cancel on us. So I'll let their time lapse have the wow.
so you can see there's a solar flare up here. So I did zoom in a little bit.
The sun almost looks hairy.
Yeah.
Hi,
Oh,
Naz. Um,
Right.
that was actually my question, is that you were talking about that prominence that detached and then was trying to about to rain down on the other side, kind of coming
Yep.
this way. So is there a way that you know that's going to happen, or do you have to take a peek through your scope first, see that it's a detached prominence, and then be like, okay, I think if I can time lapse this.
Yeah, so like this time map that you're looking at right now, you can see that the prominences was raining. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. Yeah, like in this negative version, you'll see flare goes up and then it falls back down. So like once you so most of them, I'll say most of these prominences they rain back down because the sun's gravity is so massive. The only time that they'll actually detach and fly away is when they're really tall and there's usually like a giant solar flare attached to them. Solar flare is usually just a big flash of X-ray light or something. And then we have the CME, the coronal mass ejection that'll hurtle off into space. But most of the time, the prominences will rain down just because the sun is just massive, and it's like, where are you going?
Okay, so I have two follow-up questions to that.
Yeah.
So the one is when you do your setup, about how long is a usual session of you doing H alpha looking at the sun? And then two, have you ever filmed or caught a CME coming towards Earth? So coming towards, view.
So a session. So with my Solar Quest, so I got that mount after my son was born because I knew it would be really quick to set up, and I would have like I wouldn't be able to do as much nighttime imaging. So I got that for like lunchtime imaging, and I can get set up within 5 minutes. And a session would last anywhere from 30 minutes if I'm just taking a couple of pictures to like 6, 7 hours if I'm trying to do a time lapse. So the time lapse that you saw was actually like 6 or 7 hours long, but it collapsed down to about 11 seconds. And most of the time I'm just I set it up and I come back inside because it's usually just hot. I don't want to be in the sun. And what was your second question? Sorry.
Oh, about a CME directed at you, like coming
I
towards Earth.
Yeah, I've seen solar flares coming like go this way, but it's really hard to see the prominences come towards us because once they leave the sun is just so bright behind us. Like sunspots, they'll appear dark, but they're still very bright because the sun is just so bright. The tools that I have, it won't be able to detect those CMEs. So we need like what is it called, the SDO and the SOHO telescopes to be able to tell us, hey, this solar flare is sending us something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I was thinking of the satellites that have the fake eclipse in front, and they can see the CMEs coming right at them and blasting right, right past their optics.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, too bad we can't see it here on Earth. Oh.
Not yet.
no. Kaz and Heather asked, how long was the time period for having enough pictures to make the time lapse that you showed us?
So the time lapse that you saw was about, I think, 6 hours. It's composed of 700 images, almost a terabyte of data. Each image was between 1,000 and 2,000 frames, and yeah, it turns out to be around 11 seconds, about 30 FPS.
Cool. How much data? What did you say? A terabyte of data that
About a
whole thing
terabyte, yeah,
was?
for that, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, the data storage is we're working on it for Eclipse Megamovie. The data that you all have submitted will be available soon. There are some things getting in the way. One of those things is NASA funding's being really weird right now. That's just the reality. Um, we have spoken to some people who work inside of NASA, and they have been letting us know what's going on. Ultimately, until we figure out exactly what's going to happen with the budget, because of course, the president says what he wants to happen, and then Congress has to vote on the budget. All of this drama to say we don't really know what the future holds for NASA in terms of its capability of storing a bunch of data for us long term right this moment. So we're kind of trying to figure out maybe it would be best for us to just store it ourselves and guarantee long term access, that kind of thing. But Troy is traveling with Laura for the other grant right now, so he can't give us an update on the data processing right at this moment. But it's looking really cool. They have found another way to align the images because that was the thing holding us back from Eclipse Megamovie, or like adding to the movie, getting to the point of Eclipse Megamovie with the 2017 data, with the data that we've gathered from 2024, is how the heck are we going to align it, because we don't have Regulus this time around to align it by. We essentially had to go through and authenticate the lat long and make sure that it was what it was reported to be. And then we can use the lat long and the reported time the photograph was taken to align it based on where the person was on Earth taking the picture. So it took a lot more computing power than aligning the 2017 data, but it is happening. We're almost done, which is really, really cool. And we've had some really cool students working on it with us. I'm trying to think if there's any other Eclipse updates. We're in our final year. We got our funding for the final year, and that year is going to be used to write research papers, which all of the people who submitted data will be included on as authors and contributors because you contributed the data. And Juan Carlos, our one of our science co-Is, is planning on doing some really cool solar research that we're very excited to share with you soon. He has just launched a CubeSat, which is really cool, but it also means that he has more time for us now, which we love. um, I can't think of any other updates. Do any of you have updates for us? We had a question about Xavier, the person who makes the Eclipse website and app and prediction um, system. I've asked around. I haven't heard any updates, but I do have one more person to check with. So I'm gonna check on that, and if I hear anything, I'll let you know. I know Richard was curious. Any update of the Mega Movie video? Soon, very soon. Now that things are aligned, we can start putting them. We can start updating the video essentially. So soon. Keep your eyes out for that. Eyes and ears and toes. I'm losing it. It's the end of the day on Monday. Um, yes, Richard. Richard says that considering the new government has deleted a lot of information from their own websites, perhaps it is safer to do our own storage, and that is exactly what we're thinking. The thing that's making that difficult is Sonoma State, the university that we operate out of, is trying to do some shenanigans with moving off of physical servers and onto the cloud. So they're trying to tell us that we can't have servers when in reality we have, I mean, some of the requirements of the NASA funding that we receive say you got to have servers to store the data. So we're pushing back. But long story short, it's all one big dramatic episode of drama. But fortunately, we have really cool volunteers and participants that keep things lively and can show up at a moment's notice and talk about the really cool solar imaging they do, which is very appreciated.
I was really curious. I think in the beginning, someone raised their hand that they said that they have experience with H alpha, that they've done it themselves. Who was that? Was it any? I thought I saw a
Are you
hand.
talking about me?
Oh, maybe it was you, Robert. Have you done H alpha solar imaging?
I've done quite a bit of imaging.
Oh,
First question, for Etalon filters, the reason why you have to have a long telescope is because you need to get the waves going parallel through the filter. Because the normally, if you have like a refractor, the image is curved, and so yeah, if it goes through the Etalon filter, you only get a couple, you only get a small portion of it. So you try to make it like an F10, F20, for the filter to get the wavelength going parallel to it. The other thing is we try to image something before the eclipse and do the setting for infinity for it. But for me, I actually image at iron 10, iron 14, H alpha, and during total eclipses, I do a flash spectrum. In flash spectrum, you don't have all of the Fraunhofer wavelengths. So did I hear someone mention Xavier?
I
Xavier
don't
is the
know.
one that did the interactive solar eclipse maps. Hannah, was that you?
Yes, actually, yes, it was me. Do you have an update?
Okay. What I would suggest you do you know Michael Zeiler?
I don't, but if you have contact information or you know who they know that might help me get in contact.
Uh, Contact Michael Zeiler. I think it's the Great American Eclipse website.
Ah, yes. Okay, now I know who you're speaking about. Okay.
Michael, I went to to Belgium for the Solar Eclipse Conference in June, and I met up with Michael, and he actually talked to Xavier,
Oh,
and
cool.
uh, and so anyway, I would contact Michael and see if he can contact Xavier.
Okay.
Now, for Xavier, we went to South Africa for a lunar eclipse and a graze, and we've been to La Serena, the Atacama Desert, for a total eclipse, and we've been to, a whole bunch of places with Xavier.
Xavier, thank you for letting me know how to actually pronounce it. I've only ever read the name. Xavier.
Yes.
Um, Speaking of eclipse conferences, Laura has been working very hard on arranging to have an eclipse conference in Sonoma County. So she's still working on it, but we have dates for you. So I'm happy to share that Sonoma State will be hosting an eclipse conference next year. The dates we currently have blocked out are the dates of spring break for us that year, March 23rd through the 27th, 2026. So we're still thinking about themes. We're thinking about taglines. Thank you, Dar. Um, so it's looking like it'll be because the 23rd I think is a holiday. So it would be travel on Monday and Friday and then Tuesday through Thursday at the minimum. We'll do really cool eclipse things. It could be, and we don't want to keep it to just eclipse photography. We want to, do all kinds of eclipse engagement. We want to talk about science. We want to talk about activities. We want to talk about engaging children. We want to talk about like teaching the science of eclipses. I mean, Dar can probably lead all kinds of cool arts and crafts stuff about
I mean, we
eclipses.
wanted to do a field trip to Exploratorium. If you haven't
Yeah.
been to the Bay Area, we have some amazing resources here. And I just want to give the caveat that we can call it informally a conference amongst ourselves, but
Oh, right.
formally, we're going to call it the program review and workshops because we're
Yes.
going to officially review the program and the participation and the results that we got. And you guys, of course, were key to that. And we're going to have, workshops of things, but it is not a conference per se because Sonoma State does not like the word conference. It
Thank
puts
you
them
for that reminder, Dar.
all sorts of tizzies. So you will see us
Yep.
refer to it as the program review and workshop.
Yeah. So some of the things that we're thinking about going over is adventures taken to go and see eclipses. Did you go to a remote area to photograph an eclipse or just to see an eclipse? The art of eclipse photography and also just eclipse art in general. There could be people who make like beautiful eclipse art with digital media. Eclipses in education, answering questions about why does the moon do that? Why does the sun do that? We've answered those questions several times over in those meetings, so I don't need to answer them for you today, but other people want to know. And also for those of us who are on the professional side of eclipses, we want to talk about eclipses and outreach. We want to talk about, I mean, Laura even proposed the three body problem, which is a really cool show that was adapted from the Three Body Problem book. I think it's a trilogy now, but one of Laura's favorite books. So we're still in the planning phases, but mark your calendars, March 23rd through the 27th, that week. That is going to be our Eclipse program review and workshop. Um, Tell your friends. I'll be, of course, sending out email to the listservs and things like that when we get a little closer to formal. Richard suggests checking with Aram and Jay at Travel Quest International. Oh, yes, that is a great idea. I'm going to write that down. Thank you, Richard. And we'd love to hear, I'm sure all of you have my email by now because I bother you with the listservs constantly. So we'd love to hear if there's anything you'd like to see there that we can arrange. If there's anyone you would like to see there that we can arrange. Um, A lot of NASA scientists have some extra time on their hands these days, for better or for worse. So, uh, if you have a topic that you would like to learn more about, see a scientist present on, we can probably make it happen. So think about it, be in touch. Um, we've checked in about the program. We've heard from the lovely Naz. Is there anything else that we want to chat about today, or do we want to finish a little early?
Quick question.
Sure.
When is the next eclipse that you're trying to go to?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't have any plans because I don't have the date off the top of my head, and I don't think there's another one in America for a while, right?
I agree.
2027, is that the one that's in Africa?
That's the
Australia?
Egypt one. Yeah, that
Yes,
one's
Egypt.
going to be a stunner. Is anyone planning on the 2026 total solar eclipse?
I'm going to the next one. The next
Ooh.
one's next month.
Next month?
Oh,
September next month, September 21st, there's a partial eclipse. I'm going to Invercargill, New Zealand for it.
oh,
Cool.
brilliant. Oh my
Please take
goodness.
lots of pictures.
How many eclipses have you been to?
I know
I
everyone
haven't
can hold
even
up their
seen one.
fingers. How many
I,
eclipses?
I'm at about 40.
oh my gosh, that's wild.
Wow, I love that. Okay, Richard's done 17, Robert's done 140. Okay, Naz, nice. Up to 10 or
Wow.
11 depending. Go on, Kaz and Heather, one total, one partial. Oh, go on, Jennifer's got two. Partials don't really
Oh,
count.
sure they do. Sure they
Uh,
do. An eclipse is
has
an
anybody,
eclipse.
right? Has anybody seen an eclipse, through a radio telescope?
No.
I did.
Wow.
Okay, this is what we need to do at our conference, I mean program review, is Eclipse Bingo. And it would be a great icebreaker, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Who has traveled over state lines? Who has traveled internationally? Who has seen an eclipse through a radio telescope? I did not know that was a thing.
Who has seen
Only
30 or
five.
more?
Oh, go on. I like how
That's
we
a really
say
cool idea.
only five. Like it's like
Yeah, only five. I was supposed to go to Illinois to see the eclipse with my little brother in 2024, and I got so sick that I couldn't even get out of bed to like even consider traveling. So I am jealous. I have a cat. Hello, cat. Wow, 40. Those are some lofty aspirations.
I love it. Okay, any last comments or anything anyone wants to share before next
I
month?
posted on a discussion board, but that a conference next March is only in person, or there's some broadcasting, like Zoom or any YouTube live video or something, so that the if couldn't attain in person still can feel what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really great question. It is going to be in person primarily, but we have some pretty great cameras and pretty great audio equipment. So I think I will push to at least record some sessions, if not live stream, then at the very minimum we can post them to YouTube and get some engagement and for people who can't travel. Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely do our best to make that happen. And I'm going to write it down.
And then it's conference, so like, is that how much cost for registration, or
Yeah, it's we recognize things are expensive, especially traveling to California, especially staying in California, hanging out in California for a week. So we are going to do our best to keep it reasonable.
Yeah, luckily again, being at a university, we do have great contracts with, local hotels and things like that. And so we do think it can be good. Oh, I know. Richard, will it be safe for a foreigner to cross the border? I know. Lord have
Maybe you'll just be
mercy.
stuck with us for a while, Richard.
Or even state to state. I know. We have to plan. We have to plan ahead. Um, yes, more details will be forthcoming, but yes, we are actively working on all these sorts of details right now. So yeah, that was great about the non-in-person option.
Hmm.
would be very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can live stream. Maybe that if that's what it takes to make it a little more accessible, and that'll definitely add to the numbers, we'll try.
Okay. Now we can keep this going in the chat. All right. I just want to give one last call out to anybody who didn't have a chance to share or ask a request. Oh, Hiro, would you like to share some nature photos?
Sure.
Go on. We have 8 minutes. Let's go.
Ooh, that's cool.
Love that.
Is that like the last storm we had in Arizona after the while waiting?
Hito, you are muted if you are talking. Kikoenai.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah, this as you know, Arizona, we only have several times a year to get the rain. So this is, I think, fourth rain this year.
Ooh.
But this is lightning strike. I just company. I was taking the time lapse, and then
Mm.
one of my shot, and then this guy is kind of sideways, and this guy is kind of big one, and then small one on the side.
Where in Arizona?
In Phoenix, Central Phoenix.
Ooh. Could you send those? I have family out there. I think that would like to see it.
Yeah, I can send to.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, this is another one because it's
Ooh.
time lapse. It's like a 0.5 second each frame, so I got several, I think, lightnings. And then talking about the deep sky astrophotography. This is my Alpha 2, no, hydrogen 2 picture of North American nebula using my quad band filter. And this is my latest equipment, like this way. Use CMOS camera and then equatorial mount. Recently I got it, so that's it.
Hito, Russell asks, are you using a lighting trigger?
Yes, I'm using it. And the guide camera, and then I put everything. It's the guiding the camera. Actually, this is dual CMOS camera. So I have one main camera and then one guided camera, and then I use the one for guiding. So that's why I can take like a 300-second no movement, one shot, that kind of thing. That's it.
Sugoi.
How to-
Very cool.
Thanks. How to
Thank you
quit?
for sharing.
Yeah, how to quit sharing.
Oh, I think I can stop you. Oops. Um,
Here, please. I don't know how to unshare.
I don't know either. So maybe we'll stop there. That will be a good ending point on Hito's camera. Thank you for joining us once again, everyone. You will hear more about the program review workshop in the days to come. If you have ideas, please send them our way. No idea is bad. No idea is bad. None bad ideas. They do not exist. Only good ideas. Um, Laura will definitely be back for the next one, and she will regale you all with stories of her travels, I'm sure. If there's anything I can do for you, or any questions I can answer, any support I can offer, please let me know. Yes, Richard, I agree. No dumb questions, just maybe silly answers, we'll say. No dumb answer. Well, there are a right and wrong answer. Anyway, Dara, I think we could stop recording there. Kaz and Heather, if you want